Who's got it better than us?
Your home for the best sports coverage in Utah. You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben want to remind you to nominate the youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination at kslsports.com/contest and listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, sponsored by Hercules First Federal Credit Union and Beehive Meals. Something, huh? Ben was telling Christian a story about something that happened a long time ago that was like very traumatic for me to relive again. I really am having feelings that I haven't had in like years, you know, stuff you just lock away. And then all of a sudden we're talking about it and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm having so much anxiety right now. I want to jump out of my own skin.
The NFL playoffs are set coming up for the Divisional Round. We've got Houston on the road at Kansas City. We've got Washington on the road at Detroit. L.A., the Rams, on the road at Philly. Baltimore on the road at Buffalo. How many teams of the 8, Houston, Kansas City, Washington, Detroit, the Rams, the Eagles, the Ravens, and the Bills are legit contenders? Well, it's probably easier, actually. I think it might be easier to say who's not a real contender. Who can't win the Super Bowl?
Probably like all of them outside of the Bills. No, I don't know. See, football's too hard to say that. You know, and I know we're kind of used to chalk because that's basically been how it's happened in both college and the NFL so far. But usually part of the magic of the NFL playoffs is there is a team that makes a run. In fact, we get more often than not a subpar pretender team in the Super Bowl. Think of all the teams that made the Super Bowl, lost, and then we never heard from them again.
Yeah, right.
There's a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I mean, Cam Newton not diving on that fumble was the end of that dude's career.
Yeah.
And Carolina probably was never that good to begin with. You know what I mean? So it's hard to say, like, oh, the commies are not contenders when a team the level of the commies makes the Super Bowl a lot. Like the Bengals. The Bungles were never that good, but they just made it to a Super Bowl.
They did. And have not been heard from again.
So that happens a lot in the NFL. So I don't know.
And with a rookie quarterback. Also, speaking of the Commanders, you know.
Yep.
They did in Joe Burrow's first year, and maybe
he wasn't a rookie, but yeah.
Was he not?
No.
It wasn't Joe Burrow's first year?
Uh-uh.
Oh, really? I thought
he
it was
only made
season.
it about 30 seconds into his first year when he got broken in half.
Oh, interesting.
And then
I guess I'd forgotten that.
That was his second year.
So his second year. But his first full year in the NFL as far as like being on the field. Okay, that makes sense. I don't think the Commanders are legitimate contenders. I don't know if I believe that the Texans are legit contenders. I think I might be able to sell myself on the other 6, which is what's fun about the NFL.
Well, listen, everybody, it's like the NBA too. Everybody's flawed. Like the Lions can't stop anybody. The Chiefs actually kind of stink. For a team that's
has one loss?
Has
2 losses?
2 losses.
2 losses.
And one was at the end where they threw it to the Donks, right? Yeah. I mean, for a team with that kind of record, they're
the worst.
They're not great.
15-2 team. What are they? Is it 17 games now?
15-2.
Yeah, the worst 15-2 team I've ever seen.
And they're not great. The Lions are so banged up in the defense. I mean, have you seen their scores recently? I mean, they have to score 50 points to win.
But they can,
which is pretty wild. The Eagles are surprisingly inconsistent for a team with a 2,000-yard back. Yeah, offensively speaking. Who else? The Rams. You left them for dead yesterday, but they've got.
No, I'm maybe I'm overcorrecting from my take yesterday. Like I kind of think the Rams could win it. They're the hottest team in the NFL right now. They have a quarterback who's been there before. They have a really good head coach, even though he's on the wrong side of our attractiveness scale for a head coach.
Never hire a pretty boy.
Don't hire a pretty boy, but they could sneak up there and get it. And the fact that you have a somewhat easier. Maybe I'm selling short the Eagles, and I actually like the Eagles. Maybe I'm selling them short. Just the fact that one of Baltimore and Buffalo is not making it to the next round. Like, they have to play each other. So someone's immediately out. Like the Rams-Eagles is not the toughest game of the weekend for either of those teams. That's not the toughest opponent that they could be facing. So one of those teams is going to get through, and just by the fact that they are going to make it to the conference championship gives them a chance to win the Super Bowl or at least get there.
So, yeah, contenders, the NFL one-off situations, that's a more difficult discussion. I mean, the Giants, both years they won it. They were nowhere near the best team in the NFL those years.
Right.
I could argue the Rams, when they did win it, weren't the best team in the league that year.
Okay.
Certainly the Patriots, when they first beat their first Super Bowl, when they beat St. Louis, they were not better than St. Louis.
No.
That St. Louis team was awesome.
Yeah.
And Tom Brady was not a rookie, a second-year player?
But only in hadn't started that many games.
No, he took over for Bledsoe mid-season.
Yeah.
Then everyone was saying, bring Bledsoe back.
Yeah, right. Now imagine how good they're going to be with Bledsoe.
Funny that Bledsoe was on that roast.
Yeah.
That was a funny person to get. That's cool that they still have a relationship because Drew could easily have been bitter about that.
And Drew had a great career and got a Super Bowl that year.
Yeah.
He
He had lost in the Super Bowl, like 2 or 3 years before?
It was to Green Bay? Is that who they lost to? Yeah.
It was Favre's title.
So I'm excited. I think these actually aren't like the greatest matchups. I'm not sure I'm thrilled about any of these matchups. I think the conference championship's going to be much better. But Baltimore-Buffalo is hard to beat. It's going to be a great game.
Is it wrong of me? Because Cam Newton is popping up in the press now. I don't. He must have a podcast or something. I see him on the Snap Talk every now and again. I don't take anything he says seriously ever because of that play. You're in the Super Bowl. There's a loose ball.
Yeah.
You could easily dive on it.
It was a close game.
It was a close game.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the scenario that you design up as a 10-year-old when you're playing football in the park.
Exactly right. You and your buddy are standing around.
It was exactly that.
Yeah.
And he's like, meh.
What if I get hurt?
Oh, you mean be at the bottom of the pile where they're going to, kick me in the groin and try and break my finger? Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Ignore the fact that you're 6 foot. You're as big as anybody else on the field.
Yeah.
You're 6'6", 240.
And you got to do what you got to do for the team because, after all, it is a team sport and you are trying to win the Super Bowl. So if you're presented with that scenario and you think, man, I don't think so, well, I'm not taking you seriously from this point forward. What are you in it for? Why are you saying this? What is your actual motivation? Because when it was supposed to be about winning football games and the thing called, the Super Bowl, that wasn't your main motivation.
Definitely was not. Just too bad. I liked Cam Newton, but that was that he got exposed.
He wears ridiculous clothing, and I can't help but look at his hat and go, "Are you selling hats or something, bro?"
Yeah. What's this actually?
You have
about?
a hat company or something?
What's this actually about? I think the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl still. As boring as that is, I think they're going to win it.
I don't.
It's a little bit Dodgers-y to me, where the Dodgers went to the playoffs last year and were not the best team and were not the favorite and kind of got picked against a bunch, even though they had the most talent. And they just needed to get it all together. Kansas City does have the best record, and I do think they're going to have the talent. And I think they're going to get them. Mahomes is just better than everybody.
I don't think they have the talent.
Okay.
And Mahomes hasn't been better than everybody.
Not this year.
That hasn't been his thing this year.
But push comes to shove, he's still the best quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, he's certainly proven that. I mean, he deserves the benefit of the doubt. But he hasn't been smoking the league. He isn't the reason they're 15-2.
He's not the only reason they're 15-2. I'll say. And
Travis Kelce, he's been that rock. He was Alex Smith's rock before he was Patrick Mahomes' rock.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's, at some point Gronk wasn't as dynamic. You know what I mean? As he got to that point because he's in his mid-30s, and that tends to happen.
Never underestimate the power of witchcraft.
Did he sell his soul or something along those lines? Are you going something spiritual?
That's the rumor.
The reason?
Oh, is that the myth?
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Dang. He got mixed up with witchcraft.
Well, and the whole Taylor Swift thing, witchcraft. That's the only explanation.
That he could have such a great life?
That they could be so good this year and win in all the crazy ways that they did.
They have. That is the thing that gives me pause, is that they had a bunch of fluky, they blocked a field goal, right? I think they won on a missed field goal. They had some really, really weird victories.
That's what I'm telling you. They're the worst 15-2 team ever.
Good
now it's only happened once because it's them in Detroit.
Yeah, right.
Because this is the first season with 17 games.
17 games, yeah. But
I am actively rooting for Detroit. That is the team.
I would love to see Detroit.
I want to see win the Super Bowl.
Certainly the team I want to see come out of the NFC. My dream scenario would be Detroit versus whoever wins between Baltimore and Buffalo. I would love to see that.
I really hated it how it ended for Jared Goff in L.A. That always really bugged me because he took all of the blame for them not, like...
Getting over the hump.
Yeah, and they were like a conference championship team.
They made the Super Bowl.
Yeah, right, they made the Super Bowl. I mean, everybody's like, this guy is a bozo. Yeah. And it's like, well, I guess he's not Montana, but I think he's pretty far from a bozo, actually.
Yeah.
And
now he's gotten Detroit back there, or at least knocking on the door.
Now he's the quarterback for the ultimate bozo franchise in sports. Imagine the validation you would get if you won the Super Bowl. It's like, what's his name, the boy wonder, Theo Epstein, for putting together a team that overcame the bozo of bozo-est franchise. Both of them.
Yeah, right.
In Boston and Chicago. The teams that notoriously could not win.
He did it both.
He did it at both, which is pretty amazing. Imagine Jared Goff taking the
Lions,
the hapless Lions,
capital L Lions,
the team that hasn't been taken seriously since the 50s. The 50s. Taking them to a Super Bowl would be amazing.
That might go down, if that happens, as the greatest trade in NFL history for both teams. Because Matt Stafford went in and did exactly what he was supposed to do. He won a Super Bowl really quickly. That was awesome for them. That was a great trade for them. If Goff leads the Lions then to a Super Bowl as well, like that is the perfect trade. And I don't know how many perfect trades we've ever had in NFL history, but that would be one of them, especially when it was, and I know the Lions got more back because it wasn't just one for one Goff for Stafford. I know Lions got additional stuff there, but like you win a Super Bowl and the quarterback switch teams in the trade would be incredible.
Now, I have no idea who Jared Goff is married to, but I know Detroit won in the spouse department.
Actually,
what?
Jared Goff's, I don't think they're married, but she is a Sports Illustrated swimsuit model.
Well, good for him.
Kristen Harper.
Have you paid attention to Matt Stafford's wife?
Are we bringing wives into this? What's happening?
Oh, she's horribly obnoxious. She brings herself into it.
Okay.
And actually, I shouldn't bring this up now because I think that like their kids are really sick, like in the hospital sick.
Yeah,
I don't want to be too mean, but yeah, she's kind of obnoxious. The origin story, they were dating in college when he was at Georgia, and he wasn't paying enough attention to her, so she started dating the other quarterback.
Oh, yeah. That's cool.
Is it? That it's cool right there. Sounds like somebody that's done something like that.
They're happy now. That's all that matters.
Kids had fevers.
Yeah, I knew they had some respiratory thing because it was a story that she like kicked him out of the house or something. Like she told But she thinks that her health is so important that she has to tell everybody about it. That's why we all know this. She's that kind of personality. She has a podcast or something.
And I like
horribly obnoxious.
I like Stafford. I like Goff a lot. I like their personalities. And I like that there are some local ties, certainly, to Goff. We saw him playing here and, become the number one overall pick.
We all get focused on wags, like who's the best wag? Who's the worst wag? Like Kurt Warner's ex-wife has got to be up there?
Dirk's wife, right?
Oh, his fiance, because they've never got married. Who was an actual swindler?
What does WAG stand for?
Wife and girlfriend?
Wife and girlfriend. That's right.
And I'm not talking about looks either. I'm talking about presence. Who's the most famous wag is probably what's her name? Spice, right?
Posh?
Well, now I guess it would be Taylor Swift, I suppose.
Yeah,
but
of course.
When I think of the term wag, I think of Posh Spice.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. She was the first superstar.
To be a wag, you don't have to.
Well, not really. I mean, didn't Joe DiMaggio date Marilyn Monroe?
Yeah, that's probably the OG wag.
The origin story.
And again, you don't have to be famous because you're a wag. Like Taylor Swift is probably the ultimate wag at the moment. Tony Braxton. Controversial wag.
Okay.
Started, how many wags have...
Yeah,
Lisa Left Eye. Good one, Lloyd. How many wags, though, have actually created trades? Giselle
tried to stop one.
Yeah. But with the Tony Braxton thing, Jimmy Jackson and Jason Kidd, I think it was those two, wasn't it? They were fighting over Tony Braxton to the point where they had to trade. Who did they trade, Ben? Did they trade Jackson first or Kidd first? They had to make a trade because it got so bad. They're trying to date a starlet here. It's more important than basketball. Speaking of priorities, trying to win basketball games or date Tony Braxton.
I mean, the biggest needle mover and actual trade machine person right now in all of sports, the biggest wag is Adele.
Oh, biggest. She controls everything. She's running the Lakers.
She's running Rich Paul.
Hello.
Yeah. That is a devious woman right there.
I love Adele. I'm weighing on Adele. I'm weighing on Rich Paul. And just the concept of this funny power broker behind the scenes.
He's kind of short, isn't he?
Yeah, he's not a big guy.
Selling T-shirts out of his trunk. Mm-hmm. That's how he met.
Also wrote the
that's
LeBron
how he
thing.
met LeBron.
Yeah.
I know when I see people on the street selling T-shirts out of their trunk, I think that there's a man that needs to represent my interests.
I like his hustle. Kind of his jib.
Tim LaComb's gonna. What a funny conversation, Ben. Tim LaComb's gonna join us coming up.
Kind of went nowhere.
Oh, we went everywhere.
Have we done a WAG draft?
Oh, that is brilliant. Put that on the top of the list.
Yeah, a WAG draft.
A WAG draft. Yeah. God, is there a guaranteed number one pick?
I mean, Taylor.
But Taylor's not bigger than Maryland.
Yeah, right, Maryland. Maybe we've named too many already.
Oh, those are the two obvious ones.
Yeah.
Adele's the most effective. You're right about that.
Ram is his wife.
Oh, Linda Ramis. Oh, my gosh.
I mean, technically, Phil Jackson was a WAG, right?
Yes.
To Jeannie.
He was. Oh, Linda. Nobody, think about this. Kurt Rambis was an average NBA player at best.
Yeah.
Most famous for wearing goggles and looking kind of goofy and got his head taken off once by Kevin McHale. That is his contribution to the history of basketball. And that woman has parlayed that basically into owning the Lakers.
Sorry, Adele.
Got her husband hired as the head coach of the Lakers twice.
Yeah.
I think twice.
Well, he's got glasses. He looks smart.
I think he was the interim once, and then
You're right.
I think he was the actual twice. Wow.
Walker Kessler right now has got one of the biggest, most famous WAGs in the country. Good for him.
All right. We should do a WAG draft.
WAG draft.
My mind is moving.
You're going to come in prepared. The dossier.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to come.
Bios on each person.
Who would you classify as the WAG? Megan Rapinoe or Sue Bird? That's who's together, right?
Is that they're in a relationship. I think you're right.
I think they're married, aren't they?
I mean, technically they're both WAGs.
I know. So would they both be eligible?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they both stood up for each other?
Sure.
Like at games and stuff? Probably Sue.
I'll tell you this.
Because Rapinoe was more famous.
I would not be taking Stafford's wife.
Okay.
I will not be selecting her.
Okay.
She is among my least favorite. How about that? Yeah, Taylor's probably. Who would you take number one, Christian?
Would I get double points for taking Larsa Pippen?
Ooh, infamous WAG. Yeah.
Who's she? She's dating Marcus Jordan now, but
no, she's not. They broke up.
Wasn't she dating a current player who was teammates?
She dated Malik Beasley.
Malik Beasley, yeah.
Right, that's right. Yeah, so double points. That's what I'm saying.
I think she's moved on.
I mean, if that's the case, just do a Kardashian. And there's like 5 NBA players they've dated.
Can you?
But would they be WAGs, though?
Former ex-WAGs? Or are they... Yeah,
I mean, I feel like their
in the
influence is too big.
Right.
Yeah.
Chris Humphries was not the dominant force in that relationship.
Larsa Pippen is still single following her breakup from Marcus Jordan.
I hope it works out for her. Really rooting for her.
And she isn't looking to date anyone new either, according to Bravo.
Her son's in the NBA, right? Scottie Pippen Jr.? Is that her kid?
Yeah, I think so. She and Scottie, I mean, she honestly has to be in her 50s because she and Scottie were married for a long time.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the bad feelings and resentment that went into dating Michael Jordan's kid if you were Larsa?
The messiest.
Can you imagine, I mean, she could have any guy in the world. She picked that guy.
That the NBA keeps as much of that under wraps as they do is impressive.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, because that's certainly not the only one.
I can't believe we didn't hear a darn word coming out of the bubble. You know, that was just bananas.
A couple of words.
Yeah, nothing officially reported.
Correct.
I bought you once for Christmas. I bought you a book, the book written about the bubble.
Yes, you did.
Bet none of that was in there.
No, of course not.
Nope.
Adam wouldn't let that get out.
Tim LaComb coming up next, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Accessing.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G.
Joining us now, Ian Fitzsimmons.
Hands, Crazy Wings, George's. Did you hit it?
I didn't get to hit it, man. We ended up at the Brazos Grill. I got their chicken fried steak, but they did have these thing called the armadillo balls at the Brazos River that was really good, but it's not the Crazy Wing.
Can you go ahead and just lift hands saying they did have these things called armadillo balls, which were really good?
I feel like Chevy Chase in the movie Funny Farm.
You polish off that plate and you break the record.
Stand back, everybody. The record falls tonight.
Now there's a man who knows when he's got something good in his mouth.
On that, a mic drop. Bam. Done.
Catch Hans and Scotty weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The sports you love, the teams you can't live without.
Get a sense of urgency.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jacob Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Time to talk some Jazz and NBA and college basketball. He is my co-host for Jazz Pre, Half and Post, and he's nice enough to jump on with us on Tuesdays. He's the one and only Tim LaComb. What's going on, Coach?
Well, I'm just running around like usual, trying to find a quiet room to take this call, you know?
We appreciate you doing that.
I want to know, are you rolling in a Porsche these days or an Audi? What Tim's got all these sick cars that he rolls in these days. Like they think he's a player at security.
Yeah, they always direct me down the tunnel, and I say, no, I'm just over here. You know, I'm over here. I'll park right next to David's big van.
At least it blocks the wind. Hey, Coach, all right, well, we've seen the Jazz winning more games lately than they certainly did to start the year. Are they actually a better team than they were at the beginning of the season?
I think so. I mean, I think a lot of the issues up front were turnover related. I think it affected defensive numbers, and teams just got so many easy baskets. But I do think they've gotten better. Each guy, has made some steps, and like the last two games, two of your rookie draft picks have their career highs. I think there's a lot to be said for that. I think there's just a comfort level with playing together, and also there's been some madness. There's been a lot of guys out, and so players have had to play a lot of roles, and so there's some comfort that's come from that. I think guys look more comfortable out on the floor as well.
What's the best story on the team right now?
Man, the best story on the team right now, I still believe it's Walker. I mean, I think that this was a really big year for him, to kind of answer last year. And everybody was so excited after his rookie season. But I think the message in all that is it takes a little time. I saw last night Cade Cunningham's tearing up the league. And, I mean, if you were to ask people last year about the 14-win Pistons, I don't think anybody would be that excited about Cade Cunningham. So I think that's the biggest thing is all this just takes some time. And Walker's a great example. I think everybody saw his ability to protect the rim his first year and had some excitement about his ability to be a pretty good five-man in the NBA. And he's jumped all that. I mean, right now, I was listening to my good friend Ben Anderson on the Jake and Ben show yesterday. And as always, he does his homework, even to the point of like filming me in the stands prior to a game. But, you guys mentioned it. I mean, everybody in the league's calling about him. And I can guarantee you the Jazz aren't they're saying, no, we're happy. Thank you. So I think he has been more than anything. I think where he was last year and what he's done this year, he's got to be the story to me.
I think that plays into my next question a little bit, which is Quinn Snyder got a reputation a little bit as the developmental whisperer, and some of it was because Rudy got a lot better under Quinn's guidance than necessarily he did under Ty Corbin, and Donovan came in and was awesome right away. But there's stories of veterans like George Niang and Joe Ingles really carving out a spot in the NBA under Quinn. And I think there were questions from Jazz fans about whether or not Will Hardy and this staff was doing it. Especially because Walker took a step back in his second season. So where do you think they are as a developmental staff now that Walker is having a huge third year, that we've seen growth from some of these young players like Bryce, like Keontae this season?
Well, I think they're really good at it. I think they're serious about their craft, and I think more than anything, what I'm impressed about is, they don't tell guys stuff that isn't true. I think they lean into the truth, and as they say, the truth will set your game free. A lot of players come to this league and just lean on what they do. And, Will had a hard conversation, speaking of Walker, with him last year at the end of the year, saying, here's the things, get the three-point shot out of your head and all these other things, and just be the best you can be and develop, get stronger so you can move people around. But I get there early like you guys do and watch the guys shoot. And I'm impressed with the development staff. The coaches do a great job. They're, when the guys hit the floor, it's business. There's not a lot of messing around. And as Coach Majerus used to say, the way you get better is game shots at game spots, game speed. And so, again, all these guys being able to get time in year one, this type of time, and start games and play in crucial minutes, those are things and hurdles that you're crossing early, which means hopefully development will just continue to increase.
Ben and I were talking the other day about the different types of coaches from like a style standpoint, personality standpoint. And you, in your career, worked for Rick Majerus, and then you worked for a long time for Dave Rose. I can't imagine two different personalities and I'm sure coaching styles. We saw Quinn Snyder the other day. He is so different from Will Hardy, and not better, not worse, different. They have different styles, different personalities. So I'm curious to your take on Coach Hardy and his style to connect with players.
I'm impressed by it. And again, I think part of it is he's not afraid to tell guys the truth. And I think that's it. A lot of coaches want players to like them. And so they just tell them what they want to hear, and they lean into that. But I think what Will's really developed is a true candor with guys, because you saw the moments he was spending that cool time with Walker's Kessler as his girlfriend was being named Miss America, and how neat that was that they were sitting there together. But we have the ability, in these pre- and post-game comments to really dive in and listen. And what I can tell from where I sit is that Will really cares about these guys. And I think that that's the biggest piece. Like it may not always be here in a Jazz uniform, but the way the NBA works, I think if you treat it like a community and you really try to help guys get better, you'll be around a long time. And then, so I think that that's a big piece is his relationship, but I've been impressed with his ball too. The out of bounds play he ran the other day for Collier, nice little option of Bryce coming off, him making the read, turning the corner. And then that idea of trust, with Isaiah, that he's strong enough, big enough to make that play. And so I really like what I see. I've never had more than a 5-minute conversation with Will, but even in that, he's a genuine guy. He's very thoughtful. And, even to the point of the other night, somebody was asking about Johnny Juzang's family and how they were in the fire, with all that stuff. And he basically just said, well, I'll let Johnny speak about his, they're safe, but I'll let Johnny say anything more he wants to say. And I just think that thoughtful piece, he's always got the players in mind, which I really like.
Is there anybody on the Jazz, and this is a bit of a step back, and not a negative view, but is there anybody on the Jazz that would prevent you from drafting a player at a certain position in this year's draft if you felt like they were the best player on the board?
No, I don't think so. I think right now you're just trying to assemble talent. And, like I said, I think Walker's fairly untouchable, but that doesn't mean you couldn't put him next to somebody that's pretty darn good too. So not for me. No, I think you always draft the talent piece, particularly this early in the process of what they're going through. But that's one man's opinion. What do you think?
I think centers are always the most peculiar position, and this is a pretty bad center class actually right now looking at it. There's the kid from Duke who's okay. So I don't know if anyone available is better than Walker. Last year had a much better center class than this year's, and even you've seen Zach Edey really slow down. But no, if you found a big point guard, and I'm not even talking about Yegor Demine, I'm talking about the kid from Illinois as well. If he was better than Keontae, he's better than Keontae, and that's fine. If somebody's better than Cody, I would believe it. If you get Cooper Flagg and you decide to move on from Lowry, I think that's absolutely possible.
Yeah, I love the kid from Illinois too, so I'm with you on that. What's crazy is I guess the game's moved over the last few years to somewhat positionless. I think point guard is still really important, somebody that has the ability to run that position, because there's a way more to it than dribbling the ball up the floor and making the entry pass. So, yeah, in a day and age of positionless basketball, acquire talent.
I'm just surprised by Ben's answer. I would have assumed you would have said point guard. You're not going to draft a point guard because I'm assuming you would think the Jazz should sign Jared Butler off the couch, and that's going to be the guy.
Bring him back.
That's going to be the dude.
I would like to note Jared Butler.
Was Ben a big Butler guy?
I was a believer in
Ben
JB.
Was a Butler guy.
Hey, he's had some good games as of late. So put that in Jake's pipe.
He is still in the NBA. And, yeah, his numbers, though he doesn't play a lot, his numbers are good. He's shooting the ball really efficiently. So I think the best days are ahead for Jared Butler.
I bet he dribbles a lot.
Well, of course.
Coach LaComb, you know a lot of people, and your phone rings a lot. And I happen to get to watch, coach when Ben, these world famous coaches, names everybody's heard of, are just hey, Tim.
Yeah.
And they ask you your opinion on a variety of different things. So my question to you is, if Kevin Young were to call you today and say, hey, Tim, I got to get this team to the tournament, what would your advice be to him?
Well, actually, he called yesterday. We had that conversation yesterday. Of course, just joking. You know what? I don't know necessarily what I'd say. I think right now their biggest issue is some inexperience at crucial spots. As good as Yegor is been through his career, I think he's now in a league that is really challenging his ability to score. And, to me, the way I look at it, I think they've had 3 straight games now in the 60s. And, I just think they've got to figure out somehow an identity on offense. But the good thing about that is, the best part about being a consultant is you say, hey, here's what I think. And then you get to sit back and they have to go freaking figure it out. I used to sit in that seat. And that's a way harder seat. It's way easier to sit where we all do and, try to figure it out. But I think their defense and their tenacity is good enough. I just think they're having a hard time right now consistently scoring points. And I think that's that TCU game the other night. If they could have just got a couple buckets, easy buckets, I think they win that game. The Texas Tech game was right there to be had, same type of thing. So that'll be interesting. I think they'll get right tonight. They play Oklahoma State tonight at home, and I think they'll get right, make some baskets. And then we got the old in-state conference game for the first time in a long time. So that will be interesting up on the hill.
Coach, you are the best. Thank you very much. Enjoy another night off, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Sounds great, guys. Always good to be with you, and thanks for having me on.
You're the best. Appreciate you, Coach.
Ignore Jared Butler's last 2 games because for some reason he's not playing, which is a really red flag after playing like this. But he had a 4-game stretch from January 5th to January 10th where he averaged 18.8 points, 5.3 assists and 3.5 rebounds, shooting 55% from the floor and 58% from three in just 20 minutes a game. So Jared Butler still showing that potential. And then after he played that well, they were like, you are not playing anymore.
Of all the people that we know, who do you think has the most famous Rolodex?
Ooh.
Who's got the most famous people's number?
LaComb is up there.
Tim would be up there.
Low-key, you know what? Power broker? Scotty.
Scotty's got a lot of...
Scotty's got the governor's number.
Scotty's got a lot of numbers, yeah. He's got a famous Rolodex, absolutely.
Lloyd's is good because it's truly national. I mean, his job for a long time, and he still produces, but was to collect numbers.
Yeah, but
have them, but that's not like he's going to text them.
But the most famous sports writer that Lloyd's got the number isn't even close to as famous as some of the coaches that are calling Tim LaComb.
Correct. And that's a really good question. Honestly,
I think it's
drawing
Tim.
A blank beyond Tim.
Of the people in my orbit that have famous people in their phone, I think Tim would be number one.
You don't think Hans? Hans might be up there.
Hans probably has some NFL players on there, yeah.
Or PK.
I think Hans gets a lot of text left on read. He texts people and they just don't respond. I think he's that guy.
Who's more famous, like a Pro Bowl NFL player, not a Pro Bowler,
Pro Bowler,
but a Pro Bowler, or like a famous college basketball coach?
Probably a basketball coach. Because, most people don't know, like, the left guard that's in the Pro Bowl this year. Never heard of him.
I've got a couple, but nowhere near what Tim's got. And I've got a couple that I have no idea if that's their current number. I just leave it there because I like to brag to people.
Yeah. I mean, my brother makes movies. So
oh,
he's
your
got, like,
brother.
Weird,
yeah.
And his wife probably even more so because she also does that stuff.
You know what? That's the answer. No offense to Tim, but that's probably your brother.
Yeah.
Your brother's probably like, I could get you Robert Zemeckis on the phone right now.
Like he probably, like honestly, I bet you my brother has Robert Redford's number in his phone as a.
Okay.
If I were to go through,
that's the answer.
That might be.
That's the answer right there.
Yeah. But also, he would never in a million years ever text somebody. I was with him. Oh, who was it?
Oh, you know who's got a bunch of numbers? I take it back. This guy might eclipse your brother. My guy Mike Smith has a famous. Mike Smith has a famous Rolodex.
Yeah, absolutely, he does. Been in L.A., played for the Celtics, for sure.
Clipper broadcaster forever.
I was in the car. And Mike Birbiglia called my brother. If you don't know who Mike Birbiglia is, probably a third of our listeners might. He's like a comedian, etc. And like he called my brother, and my brother was like, "Don't answer." Like that one. That was the most flex I've seen my brother have.
My Ron McBride called me while I was at my parents' house once.
Oh, that's a good.
I was like, deal. "Excuse me."
Yeah.
I got to take a call from Coach Mack.
Put John Speaker there,
Make
Coach.
sure everybody in the house knew. Oh, Coach Mack is calling me.
I always get a little panicked when coaches call because it means I've done something wrong. So, and actually, historically, it hasn't. But you're always worried that, like, uh-oh.
Have I ever told you that, like, I've never been recognized in public by a woman? I have been recognized in public by a woman once in my whole life. Uh-huh. And it was on, like, my first date with my wife.
Oh, okay.
And
big deal.
It was like, oh, yes. Hey, hello. Yes, I am that Jake Scott. Yes.
I get that all the
time.
Will
you please tell her what a big deal I am?
This always happens. We need to go to some new restaurants. This always happens.
More next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is DJ and PK.
David Locke joining us.
Patrick Kinahan wearing a Notre Dame hat reminds me Notre Dame would be a team that you cannot front run on because Notre Dame fans are kind of like people that are vegan. So I'm playing golf and we're playing with this guy and we get to the fourth tee box and he looks at us and he says, "So it's nice to know you're not vegan." And we're like, "What?" He goes, "Well, we've been together for 25 minutes. If you were vegan, you would have told me by now." And And Notre Dame fans are pretty much the same way.
I'm going to give him a pass. In this case, his dad is an Irish Catholic from Jersey and loved Notre Dame, and he says he watches Notre Dame, and he thinks of his dad who passed away a few years ago. People who say that, don't they always get a pass?
I mean, when you drop the "my dad's dead" part of the story, yeah, I really appreciate you making me feel terrible about myself this morning. Now my great energy, my excitement of being on with DJ and PK, all gone because I made fun of Patrick Kinahan's dead dad.
Oh, this is uncomfortable. Catch DJ and PK mornings from 6 to 10 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Whether it's the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, or Aggies, these guys have got you covered.
Time to eat, fellas.
You're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
1, 2, 3, move it.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Two niggas on the airways, talking sports. They got it made Jake's and also loves his tie-dye. Ben's got style with his scarves. Oh my. From the islands to the basketball court.
Tell you what, Ben, Christian does it to me every time. Come in from an upbeat record. It's Tuesday, meaning it's Jazz Ticket Tuesday. Caller number 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE. You're going to win a pair of tickets to go see the Jazz take on the Hornets coming up tomorrow night at Delta Center. Caller number 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE. I want to know if, which ball is it, Carl? That's with the Hornets. Derek?
LaMelo?
LiAngelo's
the rap artist.
Oh, okay. It's not the same person. Is LiAngelo going to perform at halftime?
Of which event?
The Jazz and the Hornets.
No, I don't think so. He's like a big deal now. He's
That's
like
what I'm saying.
Legit star. No, you don't. Legit stars don't perform at halftime shows unless it's the All-Star game.
TJ Fredette would do it.
You're proving my point.
It's a brother thing.
It's a LiAngelo. I think it's a star thing. I think LiAngelo might actually make it. How much did he just sign for?
But he signed with that one label, the Def Jam or something.
Yeah. $8 million deal with Def Jam. And he gets his own label within it.
Didn't the founder of that company have to flee the country or something?
I don't know the history of Def Jam.
Anyway, good for him.
Yeah. He's no longer the failure of the three kids.
All rock stars want to be athletes and all athletes want to be rock stars.
Mm-hmm.
You think the other two Ball brothers are jelly?
Yeah, I think they'll try and show up a little bit.
Like nobody's ever been jelly of LiAngelo in their entire life. He's the bozo that got arrested in China.
No, the people who founded Def Jam are Russell Simmons and Rick Rubin.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of a different one.
Yeah. Which I don't know exactly where they're currently standing in our public view, but yeah.
Didn't flee the country?
I guess it's possible that Simmons did, and I know there's been some accusations against Rick as well.
Simmons flee the country? I don't think so.
On a lighter note, a Montreal Canadiens player got hit by a car.
Well, yeah, what's the story? That's awful. He's out.
Montreal Canadian, they're in town tonight. Forward Emil Heinemann was struck and hit by a vehicle on Monday. The Canadiens announced on Tuesday that he sustained upper body injuries and that he'll be out for 3 to 4 weeks. The collision occurred in Utah, where the team is playing Tuesday night.
But we don't know any more details other than that?
This is according to Montreal.ctv News.
That's terrible.
Yeah, I have not seen any more. So
be careful
always
out there.
Scary.
Yeah, be careful out there.
These are big, tough guys, but that's really terrifying.
Hanson, Scotty G are coming up next. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.